For a long moment the four boys stood silently beneath the great oak tree. Peter slowly read the note again. Not every guardian walks in the light. A cold breeze drifted through the branches above them, carrying the scent of damp earth and wild herbs. "What does that mean?" Simon asked quietly. David carefully turned the silver raven brooch over in his hand. On the back was another inscription: "The Fifth Watcher." Miss Ashcombe studied it for several moments before speaking. "I have not seen that symbol for many years." "So there were more than 4 keepers?" Andrew asked. "There were always 4 keepers," she replied softly, "but sometimes they had help." As she spoke, a single raven landed on a low branch and gave 3 slow calls. Miss Ashcombe looked towards it respectfully. "The old magic is awake again." The evening shadows stretched across the forgotten garden as they walked towards the ancient iron gate. The gate closed behind them without anyone touching it. Peter glanced back. For just a heartbeat he thought he saw the faint outline of an elderly headmistress standing beneath the oak. She wore an old-fashioned black gown. Tucked beneath one arm was a polished ash cane. In her other hand rested a well-worn rubber-soled carpet slipper. She watched the boys kindly before slowly fading into the evening mist. Peter blinked. She had gone. "Did anyone else see?" he began. Miss Ashcombe smiled. "Haydn remembers every teacher who truly loved the school." As they returned towards the main buildings, the ravens followed them, not circling overhead, not making a sound, simply hopping from tree to tree as though escorting them home. "They're watching us," Simon whispered. "No," said Miss Ashcombe, "they're watching over you." The following morning dawned bright and clear. Sunday was always quieter at Haydn. After breakfast, younger boys kicked footballs across the lower field. Others wrote letters home or disappeared into the library. Mrs. Bellamy arranged flowers inside the chapel. Miss Blyton prepared the coming week's history lessons. Miss Bowflower, the present headmistress, walked calmly across the quadrangle, carrying the school's old discipline ledger beneath her arm. Although corporal punishment still officially existed at Haydn, it was used only for the most serious offences, and every use of the cane or the famous rubber-soled slipper had to be carefully recorded. Many boys feared the cupboard outside her office where the cane and slipper were kept. Others simply respected it. The older staff often reminded the boys that discipline was meant to teach responsibility, not fear. Peter barely noticed any of it. His thoughts remained fixed upon the silver raven brooch. After morning chapel, the 4 friends slipped once more into the hidden library beneath the school. Candles lit themselves as they entered. The flames burned with an unusual green glow. The ancient green book lay open exactly where they had left it. As Peter approached, fresh writing slowly spread across the page. The Fifth Watcher kept no books. Another sentence slowly appeared. The Fifth Watcher kept no treasures. David leaned closer. More words emerged. The Fifth Watcher guarded people. Simon frowned. "So they weren't really a keeper?" Miss Ashcombe shook her head. "They protected the keepers themselves." She placed a sprig of rowan upon the book. Immediately dozens of tiny silver lights floated into the air. "Witchcraft," Andrew whispered. "Old protective magic," Miss Ashcombe corrected gently. "The sort that asks for nothing except honesty." Miss Blyton searched along one of the towering shelves. After several minutes, she carefully removed a thin leather journal. Unlike every other volume, it had no title. Inside were brief handwritten entries. Peter immediately noticed one. October 1908. "Emily believes someone follows us through the woods. Whoever they are, they always leave before we can thank them." Several pages later, another entry appeared. November 1926. "Again we found fresh footprints beside the hidden path. Whoever our unseen friend may be, they quietly repaired the broken bridge before we arrived." David smiled. "So, the Watcher has protected Haydn for well over a century." Just then, Andrew discovered something hidden inside the back cover. An old photograph. 5 young people stood beneath the great oak tree. 4 wore embroidered badges showing the raven, lantern, key and oak leaf. The 5th wore only a silver raven brooch. Sadly, the face had almost disappeared with age. Peter turned the photograph over. Written neatly were the words, "Some protect the secret. 1 protects the secret keepers." Before anyone could speak, a sudden chill swept through the library. The candle flames flickered. Footsteps echoed somewhere beyond the shelves. Tap, tap, tap. A woman appeared wearing the dark dress of a Victorian schoolmistress. Her silver hair was tied neatly behind her head. She carried a slender cane. Beside her hung an old rubber-soled slipper. Her face was stern, yet her eyes were kind. She gave the smallest nod towards the boys before fading into the stone wall. Miss Ashcombe bowed her head. "Headmistress Eleanor Blackwood." "The one from the portrait," Peter whispered. "The very same. They say she still walks these passages, making certain the school remains safe." "And the cane?" Simon asked. "It reminds everyone that discipline once shaped Haydn." "And the slipper?" Miss Blyton smiled. "Many old headmistresses carried one. Even the ghosts have not forgotten." That afternoon the boys decided to return to the old boathouse. The lake shimmered beneath the summer sun. Everything appeared peaceful, until David suddenly stopped. "The boat!" Their rowing boat had vanished from the bank. Instead, it floated quietly in the middle of the lake. "No ropes," Andrew observed. "No wind," Simon added. "So how did it get there?" Before anyone answered, the boat slowly began moving towards them. Not a ripple disturbed the water. It was as though invisible hands gently guided it home. When it reached the shore, Peter climbed aboard. Resting upon one of the wooden seats lay a small parcel wrapped in green cloth. Inside was a beautifully polished whistle carved in the shape of a raven. It hummed faintly with magical energy. Tiny runes glowed briefly across its surface before disappearing. Alongside it lay another folded note. Peter unfolded it carefully. It contained only one sentence. "When you truly need help, sound the raven." The boys looked at one another in amazement. Miss Ashcombe smiled quietly. "I believe your unseen friend has just given you a remarkable gift." David held the whistle with great care. "Do you think we'll ever meet the 5th Watcher?" Miss Ashcombe gazed across the silent lake. "I think," she paused, "you already have." At that very moment, far across the opposite bank, a lone figure stood beneath the silver birch trees. The hood was lowered just enough to reveal kind, weathered features and silver hair. Behind the stranger stood several ghostly figures: old teachers, former keepers, long-forgotten headmistresses. Some carried the slender canes that had once symbolized discipline at Haydn. Others held the familiar rubber-soled slippers that generations of boys remembered with equal measures of respect and nervousness. None appeared threatening. Instead, they stood like silent guardians, protecting the ancient magic of the school. The stranger smiled warmly. A raven flew between the trees. When its wings settled, every ghost had vanished. Only the whisper of old witchcraft lingered upon the evening air, as Haydn quietly kept another of its timeless secrets.